support like the one that the Jeep community has shown today is very, very important.
Tonight, the New Britain community, along with people from all over Connecticut, are making sure 11-year-old Jacqueline Mimi Torres Garcia is never forgotten. Thanks so much for joining us for the Fox 61 News at 10. I'm Annette Montgomery. Tonight's tribute in honor of the 11-year-old whose remains were found behind an abandoned home on Clark Street included a heartfelt vigil and a memorial ride in her honor. But first, our team coverage begins with an update on Jacqueline's case. Today, DCF released a timeline of their involvement with the family members accused in her death. Fox 61's Alicia Hercules breaks it all down for us.
DCF says there has been a lot of misinformation regarding their involvement with the family. They hope by releasing this timeline, it'll clear up some of that misinformation. DCF's history with the family began in 2013 when Jacqueline was born. At the time, her mother, Carla Garcia, was in a detention center. Jacqueline was placed in the care of a paternal relative who was granted legal guardianship of her. She remained in the care of that guardian until May of 2022. One of Jacqueline's siblings was also put under the care of the same legal guardian in 2016. During this time, DCF also provided care for her younger siblings from 2014 to 2016. And again in 2017 and 2021. DCF says the legal guardian allowed the parents access to the children. In 2022, Jacqueline's mother and father, Victor Torres, sought reinstatement of guardianship of both Jacqueline and her sibling. The court granted that request in May of 2022, after DCF conducted a review of the family's history, their current circumstances, as well as an interview with Jacqueline and her younger sibling. DCF says they last interacted with Jacqueline in September of 2022 during an investigation concerning her younger siblings. They say at the time there wasn't enough evidence to prove there was any child abuse or neglect that would result in the children being removed from the home. That case was closed in 2022. DCF says they had no further involvement with the family prior to the child's death, which police say happened in the fall of 2024. Between their final interaction with Jacqueline and her death, DCF says they didn't receive any reports of child abuse or neglect regarding the family. They also say Jacqueline was never homeschooled during their involvement. Garcia and her sister were granted sole custody of Jacqueline in June of last year. However, DCF was not involved in that proceeding. Their last involvement with the family was in January following concerns regarding Jacqueline's younger sibling. At the time of the investigation, Garcia told DCF Jacqueline was being homeschooled and was temporarily staying with a relative out of state. DCF says they conducted a video call with a person who Garcia claimed was Jacqueline. They say they provided this information to law enforcement, but no additional concerns were noted, so the case was closed in March. DCF says amid the ongoing criminal investigation, they will continue to be as transparent as possible. In Hartford, Alicia Hercules, Fox 61.
We also received a statement from the New Britain School District today about when Jacqueline was pulled from school in August of 2024. They tell us she went to New Britain Public Schools from kindergarten to 5th grade. The statement also says her mother, Carla Garcia, filed to have Jacqueline withdrawn on what would have been her first day of 6th grade. Garcia said it was because they were moving to Farmington. Also on the same day, Garcia filled out a form that says she intends to homeschool her daughter. Now we'll have more on the memorial ride in just a few minutes, but for now we have full coverage on this story on fox61.com and the free Fox 61 News app. We also have it on our free streaming platform Fox 61 Plus. You can download it now on your Amazon, Roku, or Apple TVs.
Good to have you along. I'm meteorologist Matt Scott, and the forecast after a kind of weird week. Well, we finally got it right, and it's the weekend, so that's certainly some good news. Feeling phenomenal. A little brisk out there this evening, but we have a warm-up for the weekend I think you're going to enjoy. The work week starts wet. We'll talk about that with the 7-day coming up. Clear across the board this evening. That's fine. Still got a little wind out of the north. So the temperatures taking a few degrees off. The numbers, which are rapidly deteriorating deteriorating. They've been going down through the 40s quickly, and they'll drop down to the upper 30s. Some of you getting even lower. Frost, patchy, possible. Litchfield Hills, northern parts of the southern counties under a frost advisory tonight. Shoreline still got a little growing left in your gardens. Here's your planner for tomorrow. Temperatures starting in the upper 30s near 40 degrees. Fast warm up gets us back up to where we should be temperature wise, with a lot of sunshine, a couple clouds in the afternoon, but all in all, really nothing to worry about. What about Sunday? What about rain coming in for the work week? We'll talk all about it, he tried to say, coming up in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Matt. Well, developing tonight, North Haven police tell us they found a dead body inside a home earlier this afternoon. An investigation is now underway at the home on Sackett Point Road. Investigators say it's too soon to say if there's any foul play involved. Officials say they believe there's no risk or threat to the community. We'll keep you updated as this story develops. Well, this Monday, the 14 days of early voting for the 2025 general election will begin. The early window provides all voters with the opportunity to cast their ballots in person on a day of their choosing prior to Election Day. Election Day this year is set for Tuesday, November 4th. Every town will have at least one early voting location, but officials note that some locations have changed since last year. You can find where you need to go by visiting myvote.ct.gov. State police have confirmed the man they found dead in Old Lyme yesterday afternoon was a missing man they were looking for. A silver alert was issued yesterday morning for Keith Allard. Troopers later found him at Grassy Hill, and he was pronounced dead. Officers say they believe as of now no crime was committed. Well, the Waterbury water main saga is over. Huntington Avenue is back open and repairs are now finished. City officials told us the good news this afternoon. They thanked Dayton Construction for their outstanding work in completing the project as quickly as they could and making sure it was done right. Leaders also thanked neighbors and businesses for their patience and understanding through the process. The massive water main broke more than 3 weeks ago. Well, new tonight, the season opener for women's basketball between number 1 UConn and number 2 Louisville, set for November 4th, may be moved due to the government shutdown. The game is set to be played at Ramstein Air Base in Germany. Sources with the Associated Press say if the shutdown continues through Monday, the game will shift to a neutral site in the United States. ESPN will begin exploring contingency plans. Now, this would be the first time 2 women's teams played in the event's history at Ramstein. This weekend, thousands of protesters plan on holding demonstrations nationwide, including right here in Connecticut. The second round of No Kings protests are slated for tomorrow. The first round took place in June. Here in the state, we know those protests are planned in both Cheshire and Hartford, with organizers saying the protests are part of a movement to highlight actions taken by the federal government. And the U.S. Department of Homeland Security is now sending a warning to police ahead of the protests this weekend. An intelligence report that was sent out to law enforcement agencies says the department is concerned about the potential for violence. The agency said it's based its concerns on similar events earlier this year. DHS says police should look for demonstrators with a history of exploiting lawful protest. The report recommended officers communicate with mass transit agencies, limit protesters and counter-protesters to specific areas, as well as use barriers to restrict movement. The report did not indicate any specific or credible threat or identify any planned protest by name. Well, tonight, a disturbing assault in Bridgeport has sparked new concerns about student safety, and it's now prompting calls for changes to school transportation policies. A high school student was reportedly attacked recently on her way to school, and now other students say they no longer feel safe walking. Fox 61's Celine Arab has the follow-up tonight and what students are now requesting in the wake of that incident.
Police tell us the assault happened here on Railroad Avenue, and the victim said not only was she assaulted, her life was also threatened if she told anyone about the attack. Despite that threat, the victim walked to school after being attacked and reported what happened to her that morning.
The school immediately contacted the police department. There's a school resource officer at that school who responded, and of course, medics were called.
Detective Jeffrey Holtz with Bridgeport Police says the victim was taken to a local hospital and has a long road to recovery in front of her.
Any individual that goes through an assault like this obviously has some things they need to overcome.
Now, walking to school, something routine for students in this area, has a whole new feeling attached to it.
I was low-key shocked. Yeah, I was shocked. That was like terrible.
Luis Aguirre and Michael Rojas are high school sophomores in Bridgeport, and both say they live too far to be eligible for getting picked up on the school bus.
Well, for some certain people, like girls, are more unsafe, right? But yeah, probably me, I'll feel unsafe too.
Currently, high school students in Bridgeport are eligible for a school bus pickup and drop-off if they live more than 2 miles from their school. We asked the Bridgeport Board of Education if they plan to have a special meeting to discuss shortening the bus eligibility after this week's attack. A board member told us the board hasn't discussed having a special meeting, and they have no special meetings scheduled at this time. Aguirre and Rojas say they hope the school board changes their eligibility rule to give more kids a safer option for getting to school.
It could be like cold outside, people wouldn't walk, but nobody knows what's gonna happen. Any moment could change.
The next school board meeting is October 27th at 6:30 at the Aquaculture School. If a special meeting does get scheduled before that, we'll keep you updated on Fox61.com. Reporting in Bridgeport, Celine Air, Fox 61.